Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of The Curious Card, where we look at fun and interesting cards and see what kinds of decks we can make with them on PTCGO. Now today we're actually going to be looking at a deck I'm considering playing for the World Championship later this month in Boston. And that's going to be Primal Groudon, a card which has been out for a few sets now and has seen some success, but has never been like a huge contender. We've seen a few variants of it in the past with Donphan and now with a more speed-based deck with Mega Turbo. But we're going to be looking at a different version of it today. So before we jump into the support Pokemon, let's look at Primal Groudon himself. Primal Groudon has 240 HP, which is the biggest of any Megas out. I think Wailord is the only card that has more than that, so going to be very difficult to knock out. He is a Mega, of course, or a Primal reversion, I suppose, but they're basically the same thing, but this has a little bit more crusty stuff up here. That's really the only difference. We're going to be fighting type, so we gain advantages from the support in Furious Fist, such as Focus Sash and Strong Energy. Weakness to Grass, which is actually probably a pretty good weakness to have right now. The only real grass threat out there is going to be Leafeon, which will do a good bit of damage when it attacks Primal Groudon. But other than that, Verzine Genesect is not really fast enough to contend in this format, I would say. So we don't have to worry too much about that. Though I shouldn't really, that's a bit hypocritical of me. Primal Groudon EX is really slow, with a 4 retreat cost and a 4 attack cost, and it's really going to be hard to get him doing anything. But we'll get to that in a second. We have this amazing ancient trait here. Just as a reminder, ancient traits are not abilities, they are just an intrinsic part of the card. Pokemon hasn't yet released anything that shuts down ancient traits. I hope they don't. So for right now, Omega Barrier will be in play as long as Primal Groudon is, and there is nothing that will shut it down. So Omega Barrier reads that whenever your opponent plays a trainer card, excluding Pokemon tools and stadium cards, prevent all effects of that card done to this Pokemon. That is absolutely huge. So just to rattle off a short list of what that stops, Primal Groudon cannot be Lysandered, cannot be Pokemon Catchered, cannot be Hypnotoxic Lasered, Crushing Hammer will not affect him, Enhanced Hammer will not affect him, Zero Sick will not affect him, Startling Megaphone will not affect him, and Tool Scrapper will not affect him. None of those cards will do anything to Primal Groudon. Your opponent is actually allowed to play them, but it just won't do anything. So that's really big. What this means is it's really hard to disrupt Primal Groudon. He cannot be Lysandered. That's probably the biggest, I would say, of the trainers that Omega Barrier will block. So you can't bring Primal Groudon active before he's ready to be active. And that's really nice, because he's not going to be ready for a long time. He takes 4 energy to attack. What it also means is that you can't be Hypnotoxic Laser, any of those nasty cards that would usually disrupt Primal Groudon. Oh, Team Flare Grunt, forgot about that one. That also won't do anything to you. So all these cards cannot disrupt Primal Groudon. That's really good. So once you get him going, he won't be stopped. The only thing that will actually affect you that you can't stop is going to be Headringer. So if they get that on you, that's a bit unfortunate, but you can always put down a tool of your own beforehand and stop Headringer from being put on your Primal Groudon, and since your tool can't be discarded after you Primal Evolve because of Omega Barrier, you will be safe from Headringer after you Primal Evolve and put a tool on Primal Groudon. So looking at the attack, it's Gaia Volcano, which has a base damage of 100, and then if there's a stadium card in play, the attack does 100 more, and you have to discard that stadium card. So kind of like a more powerful version of Donphan's Wreck attack, but for a more expensive energy cost. So that's really all you need to know about Primal Groudon. He's really powerful, but if you look at our line, it's pretty thin. We only have a 2-2 line, and we only have 8 energy, so we're really only going to be able to set up 1 Primal Groudon. Well, reasonably anyway. So what we're going to have to do here is we need some way to keep Primal Groudon alive. I talked earlier about the other versions of Primal Groudon, Donphan and the speed versions. Those all aim to either just set up 1 Primal Groudon and have alternate attackers. That's the Donphan deck, but we clearly don't have any alternate attackers. Or to just set up multiple Primal Groudon. which we will not be able to do either. So what does our deck have that those don't? Well, we have healing tactics. We have this Dusknoir here from Flashfire. Now, if any of you have seen the video of Mega Heracross, the idea here is going to be exactly the same. Shadow Void is Dusknoir's ability, and it basically says that you can, on your turn, move as many damage counters as you want to Dusknoir. So when Primal Groudon takes damage, we're just going to use Shadow Void and put it all onto Dusknoir. That way we keep our Primal Groudon healthy, and we don't have to set up more than one, ideally. Now, I'm not the first person to think of this deck. I don't know who the original was. I know that Dylan Bryan made a kind of similar healing deck with what was it? With a Dragonite from Roaring Skies. But I don't like that version as much. There's a couple of problems with it. The first is that Wobbuffet shuts it off, but we're going to be getting to Wobbuffet in a second. The other is that a smart opponent can pretty easily play around Dragonite. All they have to do is damage, say you have a Focus Sash on your Primal Groudon. If your opponent just does a little bit of damage to Primal Groudon, then, like with a Sky Return or something, then you are still forced to play Dragonite, which has an ability that says that when you put down Dragonite, you heal all damage from one of your Pokemon. But then that Dragonite is basically spent. You can't do anything else with him. Dusknoir, however, is kind of reusable in that you can move a bunch of damage to him. 120 is his max that you can put on him without knocking him out, and then you can play Max Potion and get rid of all the damage. So Dusknoir, if you're hit by something small like a Hawlucha or a Sky Return, you can just move that smidgen of damage to Dusknoir and keep on chugging. Now, the only other Pokemon we have in here is going to be Wobbuffet, and we're running him as a 4-of, so clearly he must do something important here. But we're obviously not planning to attack with him because we run like 1 Psychic Energy, so we're clearly not planning on that. So why is he in here? Well, he's in here really just because of his Bide Barricade ability, which says that as long as he's your active Pokemon, each Pokemon in play, in the discard pile, and in the hand have no abilities except for Psychic Pokemon. So Wobbuffet is going to be great for disrupting our opponent. Think of all the ability Pokemon that are being run now, especially basics. Things like Shaman or Jirachi or Execute or Keldeo or Dark Cloak for Darkrai. All those abilities are shut off by Bide Barricade as long as Wobbuffet is active. And also things like Bronzong, even like evolution cards like that. Now, what we're going to be running 4 of him for is that we want to start with Wobbuffet. We need, in a sense, sacrifice Pokemon for Primal Groudon, because he's going to take a long time to get rolling. So we're going to put up Wobbuffet and basically just stall until we are ready to send out Primal Groudon, who, remember, cannot be Lysandered, so our opponent is going to be forced to deal with what other Pokemon we put out before Primal Groudon is ready. That's going to be Wobbuffet's function. And so we're probably going to lose a few Wobbuffets. I've seen this deck run with Robo Substitute as well, which I don't like very much. Honestly, since we're only setting up 1 Primal Groudon, we can actually afford to give up 5 prizes before we actually have to send out Primal Groudon. So honestly, I would rather lose the Wobbuffet and let my opponent take a prize than be putting up Robo-Subs, which don't shut down our opponent's abilities. You also, of course, cannot start Robo-Substitute, and that's another disadvantage, because we really want to start Wobbuffet. Now, so that's all the Pokemon in here. Our bread and butter card that we want to start with is going to be Karina. Karina will let us get a fighting Pokemon and an item card. So on turn 1, we can search for that Groudon, which generally we're going to have to do. We generally won't have him in our opening hand because we only run 2 of them. So it's going to let us search out that Primal Groudon. And then we get an item card, and that's maybe even the bigger part of this card. So depending on what our hand is, we can search for the item card that will help us the most. One of the most common ones is going to be Professor's Letter, which will just let us search out 2 basic energy cards and start slapping them on Groudon. If we don't have any energy in hand, that's a great option. We can also grab a tool card. If we're playing something like Manectric or Seismitoad, they're almost certainly going to be running Headringer, and that can really slow down Primal Groudon. So if we're worried about a tool coming down on us, or a Team Flare tool, we can also Karina for the Float Stone or the Hard Charm or the Focus Sash, get that onto Primal Groudon, and say to our opponent, no more Headringer, don't put that on me. We can also grab, so this is something I put in recently, we can also grab Repeat Ball. Karina is an amazing card, but there is a problem with her in that she doesn't let us draw cards. If we're playing Karina, we're not playing Ann or Juniper, we're not going to be finding our sacrifice Pokemon quickly enough, our Wobbuffets, and if we really need to, our Duskulls. So what Repeat Ball will let us do, we can Karina for Groudon and Repeat Ball. Hopefully we start something that's not Groudon, like a Duskull or Wobbuffet, and we can Repeat Ball for another one of them. So a common instance is, say we start Wobbuffet against our opponent's Manectric or something. Our opponent attaches energy, Spirit Link to Manectric, and then passes to us. We have a Wobbuffet active, and because we know that Mega Manectric does 110 damage, we know we are in immediate danger of our Wobbuffet being knocked out next turn if they have another energy and the Mega. So we have a Karina, we play the Karina, we get Groudon EX, but we don't want to have to put up our Groudon EX. Let's say we didn't start with any other bench Pokemon, which is pretty common. We want to have something else to promote after a Wobbuffet goes down. We don't want to have to put up Groudon because Groudon can't do anything until turn 4 at the very earliest. So we can grab the Repeat Ball, grab another Wobbuffet, or even if we want, like another Groudon EX, because that can soak up some more damage, and just promote that after Wobbuffet goes down. So that's why that's in here. It comes in handy sometimes. We have 3 switching carts, a switch, an escape rope, and a float stone. I just like having a nice variety in here, depending on what the situation is. Escape rope can be useful against like a Hippowdon. It's a pretty niche scenario, but like if they're not expecting it, you can actually, if you're on their last Hippowdon, you can escape rope, make them switch into something else, and then Lysander their Hippowdon back up and knock it out with Primal Groudon. This was always the combination I feared when I played Mega Deontay, which I think I made. I'm not sure I put a video up of that yet, but that's the deck I've been maining until now. And so that combo can be effective against that, but it's usually not really much better than a switch. Side note, there's a kind of funny ruling with Escape Rope and Primal Groudon, which some of y'all might not know. The ruling is if Primal Groudon is on the bench and your opponent plays Escape Rope, you can choose Primal Groudon to put up as your Pokemon for the Escape Rope. If Primal Groudon is your only Pokemon on the bench, then he has to be promoted. Now, if Primal Groudon is active and your opponent plays Escape Rope, Primal Groudon will not go anywhere. That's the ruling. If he's active already, Escape Rope can't make him leave. Compare this to Lysander, where if Primal Groudon is on the bench and your opponent tries to Lysander him, Primal Groudon will just stare at Lysander and say, I'm not going with you, I don't trust you, I'm not going to go active. And that will be the end of that. Now, if your opponent Lysanders while Primal Groudon is active, then Primal Groudon will go back to the bench. You can Lysander around Primal Groudon, you cannot Escape Rope around Primal Groudon. So, just a ruling clarification there. We also have 3 rare candy. We don't have any Dusclops, so we're going to be looking to rare candy into Dusknoir. Karina is great for this. It works kind of like Skyla did for the old Blastoise decks and for Empoleon. We can just grab the rare candy here and go into Dusknoir. If we have maybe the Dusknoir but not the rare candy, and if we have the rare candy and not the Dusknoir, we can Karina for an Ultra Ball and then go with that. Karina's really a really good card in here. Now, supported line, we have a Colress, 4 Juniper, 4 N, pretty standard, 3 VS Seeker, 2 Lysander. You might go with 1, but I think it's really important to... A smart opponent will oftentimes try to build up a bench Pokemon like a Mewtwo or a Seismitoad with Grenade Hammer or a big Eviltal EX on the bench, and it's important that you eliminate that threat before they attack into Primal Groudon. So being able to Lysander those big EX Pokemon on the bench is super important. So that's why we've got 2 in here. We also have our Stadium line, which is very important for Primal Groudon because remember that his attack only does 100 base damage plus whatever strong energy adds if there's no Stadium card in play. So the stadiums we choose, we need to have some stadiums, and then of course they need to be doing something useful for us. the one that we're going to run the most of is actually going to be Silent Lab, because Primal Groudon has major problems with Aegislash EX, a really popular card, and also Suicune EX, which is also popular. Those cards have the Suicune and the Sigilif have the Safeguard ability, which means that EX Pokemon cannot touch them, so we're going to need to shut that down if Primal Groudon is going to do anything to those Pokemon. And then the Aegislash EX has the Mighty Shield ability, which if we have 4 basic on Groudon, that's not a problem, but that's not likely considering half our energy is strong energy. So Mighty Shield will stop damage from Primal Groudon because special energy is attached to Primal Groudon, so we need to shut that down most of the time, and Silent Lab will do that for us. The only other stadium we have in here is Shrine of Memories, just as a one-of. Really nifty card. I think Primal Kyogre actually runs this card too, which is kind of funny because these are really the only 2 decks I know of that play this card, and they're kind of rivals. Shrine of Memories says that each of your Pokemon, your evolved Pokemon, can use the attacks from their previous evolutions. So if you have Primal Groudon out, you can use Groudon EX's attacks, which I don't think I mentioned. He has Rip Claw for a couple energy, does 30 damage, and on a coin flip, you can discard an energy. But the one we're going to be more interested in is this Massive Rend. This is just plain, straight up 130 damage for the same attack cost as Gaia Volcano. So what this can be useful for is if your opponent has an EX out, say with like 170 HP or something, and you have a couple strong energy down, you can put down Shrine of Memories, and instead of using Gaia Volcano, which will require you to discard the stadium, you can actually just use Massive Rend, which will do, with a couple strong energy, 170 damage, enough for a knockout, and you are guaranteed to have a stadium next turn, which is huge, because one of the biggest weaknesses of this deck is going to be in. If your opponent has a big Pokemon built up on the bench, and then they in you to a low hand size, you're going to have a lot of trouble dealing with that, because you need, if you're into low hand size, we don't really have a way to search for stadium cards other than computer search, and so Shrine of Memory lets us guarantee that we have a stadium next turn, so even if we get end, we are guaranteed to be able to use Gaia Volcano for a lot of damage on the following turn. Now, we also have our energy line is going to be pretty small. It's hard to decide on an energy line for a deck like this. You don't want many energy because the plan is to only set up one Primal Groudon, but you also need a sufficient amount of energy because you have to find it quickly. Primal Groudon is slow enough without having to wait several turns to actually find your energy cards. So it needs to be not too big but not too small. And so 8 is a good number, 8 or 9. We have 4 strong, of course, for the extra damage, and remember that because of the ancient traits, Omega Barrier, we are immune to Enhanced Hammer and 0 Sick. We've got 3 fighting energy, and we also have 1 psychic, which I actually just thought of last night. I think it's a pretty good idea. This psychic will never get in our way. I'm never gonna draw it and be like, oh, I wish I had the fighting energy, because we only run 1 of it, and so that psychic can always just fill in this colorless cost on Gaia Volcano. But it does give us a small advantage because if we really want to, we can actually attack with Wobbuffet with Psychic Assault, which does 10 damage plus 10 more for each damage counter on our opponent's active Pokemon. So this can be a nice kind of surprise tactic against our opponent. If our Primal Groudon somehow goes down, but he managed to do a lot of damage to our opponent's last EX or something, we can front Wobbuffet and Psychic Assault for the final couple of prizes. I suppose in a very strange situation, we could also use Pain Pellets, which is actually a really good attack if you can actually get it going. You put damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon equal to the number of damage counters on this Pokemon. So if you get 120 damage on Dusknoir and then use Pain Pellets, you can actually snipe for 120 onto any of your opponent's Pokemon. So that's a very rare scenario. We would need Psychic and 2 of our non-strong energy on that. But, it could happen. There's really no reason not to play it. So yeah, Computer Search is our A-Spec just for consistency. We have 2 Max Potion. Wish I could run more, but space is pretty tight here. And yeah, that's the gist of the deck. So let's go have a look at a game I played with it on PTCGO. Alright, up against Six Paths Pain. I feel like I've played this guy before, maybe on this channel, I'm not sure. But he will flip heads, and he will go first. So hopefully we will start with a Wobbuffet. None of you are basics, and there's a Groudon. No, that is probably our worst starter, and what an appalling hand. My goodness. We have 2 rare candies. We only run 3. We have 2 Junipers, our letter, and a max potion opening against Landorus. This is not pretty. Yikes, yikes, yikes. There's a Hawlucha. So our opponent's opening with Karina, getting Hawlucha, and an item card. A Karina would not be too bad right now. Ultra Ball. This might be going for a Garbodor here. Or Trubbish right now, anyway. Oh, Zubat. Okay. This is Landybats. This is going to be difficult for sure. Repeat Ball. Ugh, I don't like the way this is shaping up. This might be a little too fast for us, but we'll see what we can do. A third Repeat Ball comes, no, second Repeat Ball, third Zubat comes down. And, there's my opponent. Yeah, he's played Karina. But man, we are in some trouble. We draw, hey, there's a Karina. What will we do with this? Karina, so our full Groudon line is here. We may actually just go for a... Is Hard Charm in here? It is. I think that's what we'll do. We'll go for a Hard Charm, which we can't grab right now because we're picking the Pokemon. And the Groudon. And we're going to just have to try to weather the storm here. This is going to be a rough start for us, but we'll see what we can do. We'll get both of these. Hard Charm, Professor's Letter, grab a couple fighting, have 1 prize, take note of that. Put this on Groudon. Next turn we'll be able to max potion off any damage he does to this Groudon, though I'm not sure that'll actually be a good thing, because we might want this Groudon knocked out eventually, because otherwise he's just going to keep on hitting this Groudon. Though not for very much. Now he's going to put this damage probably on... Nope, he's putting on the active. I'm not sure I agree with that. So we'll see a Hammerhead. It looks like my opponent doesn't have a supporter, which is huge for us. So we draw a strong energy. We'll be able to max potion off this damage here. I really don't agree with putting the Golbat down and biting the Groudon. But oh well. We'll put a strong energy here and hope we draw a Primal Groudon. We draw Computer Search, so we can do that. I think we will go ahead and do that. We don't want to be enhanced hammered off. Let's see. And what do we do here? Comp Search, away, U2. In, and Wobbuffet. We'll just go ahead and grab the Primal, why not? So now we're safe from Enhanced Hammer, Lysander, Headringer, now that we have a tool on us. Just from a lot of things. So we have this Hard Charm, so we're going to be able to absorb a lot of damage. Now this Crobat comes down, we'll see if he's learned his lesson. Yes, he has. He's going to put the damage on the Primal Groudon here. We'll see a Hammerhead for 10. Even though it's a Hard Charm, there's really no point in hitting this Wobbuffet. So he's going to keep on going for that, for the Primal Groudon, which is smart. Now, here's what I need to think about. Do I want to heal this Groudon? Because I kind of want him to go down soon, or else this Groudon's just going to kind of be eaten to death. And we've already discarded an energy, so we can't power up 2 Groudons. We only have 8 energy in our deck. Now we only have 7, not enough to power up 2. We don't want to play in. We're going to be playing a Juniper, which I don't like, but I don't want to give my opponent a new hand. So, I say we go ahead and Juniper. I don't want to heal this Groudon off. We draw, see, Ultra Ball, and I'm not going to Primal Evolve this one either, because there's really just no point. We draw an Ultra Ball. We're definitely going to go for a Duskull here. And then next turn we'll be able to Chorus, and who knows, maybe we'll get a switch in the energy and be able to just go to town on this Landorus. Now there's, oh, he finally gets a supporter, so, ooh, we may be in some trouble if my opponent puts down a Zubat. Alright, sorry, a Golbat, and then Hammerheads the Duskull. That could be really nasty. So far, nothing. Muscle Band here, I'm fine with that. The quicker this Groudon goes down, the better in my book. Yep, he's going to go for the Duskull. He must know that I'm playing that other Duskull, or the other Dusknoir with Shadow Void. So we will go ahead and Colress for a big ol' 8. And do we get it? We don't. And we don't get an energy either. Have we used computer search yet? We have. Oh, that's rough. We have to find another energy very soon. So 1, 2, 3. We'll go ahead and bench both of these. We do have Shrine of Memories, so we can actually do some damage to this Landorus next turn. We can actually escape rope if we want, but I really kind of don't want to do that. Yes, I do. Let's do it. Let's see what happens. We're going to put down Shrine of Memories next turn, and we'll be able to Rip Claw for a bit of damage. Now let's see what my opponent puts up. Ooh, the Zubat. I think that might have been an error, because we actually can knock out the Zubat, but of course he has no way of knowing that I have Shrine of Memories. He probably thinks I'm about to Gaia Volcano, and he was willing to lose the Zubat. But this is good. We will Rip Claw. Maybe we can get an energy. Of course, this flip doesn't matter. There's no energy on the Zubat. Energy? No. So we are capable of getting a Dusknoir next turn, but I don't really think we want that right now. I mean, we do, but we need an energy more than anything else. I suppose we could just continue using Rip Claw over and over, but that doesn't seem like a good idea. In's not going to be letting us that many cards. Not a great odds of us drawing an energy. We only have, let me see, at most 4 left in deck. My opponent is using Karina for a VS Seeker as a letter, so we're going to be Flying Pressed. This is that. Oh wait, no, this Hawlucha resists fighting, so that actually is a bit rough, because we would normally be doing enough damage with Rip Claw, but currently we're not. We draw Primal Groudon, which is like the opposite of what we want right now. So, what do? We threw away Rare Candy already, and we really have to get a Dusknoir going. I think we've also burnt both Max Potions. That's really rough. So what we're going to do is we're going to Karina, grab the last Rare Candy. Let's see how many energy are left in deck. 1 strong. So 3 energy left in deck. So right now we're going to use the Rare Candy. See if we can still use Rip Claw. We can still see if we can get rid of this energy. So use Dusknoir, Rare Candy, and so now we'll start using Shadow Void and start healing off this Primal Groudon. Of course, we are out of Max Potions, so this may be a rough spot that we're in right now. But we're going to go ahead and heal all this off. We want to get maximum use out of this Dusknoir before he's picked off by something, which he might be soon. So he's got 40 on him. And we'll just go ahead and use Rip Claw for not enough because of that annoying fighting resistance. But maybe we can discard an energy. Hey, we did. So that'll at least annoy him, which I guess is not as good as a knockout, but, you know, whatever. So next turn, unless we draw a better supporter, we will have to end, and we're going to have to look for that, that 4th energy. We do have the Shrine of Memories in place, so if we can find a strong energy, we can actually knock out this Landorus without discarding the energy. We can actually knock out anything without discarding the energy if we find that, without discarding the Stadium. So let's see if my opponent has another energy. There's a VS Seeker, so he does have a supporter. What will he get with this? Maybe a Lysander? Maybe, let's see, there's Juniper, so yeah, he's definitely going to go for the Juniper. Didn't have any energy, so he's going to be looking for that this turn. And I will also be looking for energy on my turn. Comes a Golbat. Looks like he's going to take out that Duskull. Not the worst play, I suppose, but the Duskull's really kind of irrelevant at this point. Here comes the Baby Landorus. It's going to hit us for, I guess, 20. Not very much, thanks to this Hard Charm. Unless he puts like a Fighting Stadium down. There's a strong energy going on to the Hawlucha. Oh, we may be seeing a Land's Judgment soon. I'm going to put down this Wobbuffet because there's really no reason not to. We don't want to draw him again. Let's see if we can get an energy. We do. We get a strong. That's great. So we'll go ahead and drop that down here. We will go ahead. Do we Shadow Void? That's going to be hard to decide. Because a Crobat Bite will actually knock us out, and that could be really bad. Yeah, I don't think we have much choice here. We want to get this damage off Primal Groudon, so we might get bitten next turn, but, you know, that's not so bad. Let's go ahead and just go ahead and Massive Rend. You see we have 3 attacks available to us now, and we'll go ahead and use the one we need to get the knockout. Now, what I'm worried about he might be thinking of doing is he might promote this Landorus. Land's Judgment for a lot of damage, and then we are in some trouble, because then that Hawlucha is going to come in and do a mind... is going to knock us out. So, yep, there's a strong energy, and we don't have an in, which is a shame, because that's what we need right now. There's an AZ. That'll be good. He'll probably pick off this Dusknoir with that. Now, here's an interesting thing. He's putting up the Hawlucha. I don't know if he'll use the Hawlucha or the Landorus first. I think I would go for the Landorus first because I can Lysander next turn. So I would definitely go for that. I don't know if he'll do it. No, he's going to Flying Press, which may not be what he needs right now. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and just put this down. We're going to Lysander, the Landorus EX, and we'll Guy Volcano. We do have to discard the stadium. Our Shrine of Memories got replaced. And man, if we had more rare candies, this would be a really good spot, because we could Karina for the rare candy for Dusknoir, but because of that nasty opening hand, we are down 3 rare candies now, because we used one to actually get Dusknoir in play, but my opponent foolishly benches a Lucario EX. Unless he has a Focus Sash, that is a bad idea. Now, all we have to do is Silent Lab, Lysander, and that's the last 2 prizes. His whole advantage was, does he pick it up? No, that's not what he needs to do. 60, and that's going to be game. We're going to bring up that Lucario EX, which our opponent really should not have benched, and Gaia Volcano for the knockout. And that will be game. I don't think we could have won that without the Lucario EX. But Primal Groudon definitely specializes in taking out EX Pokemon with those Stadium cards and Gaia Volcano. So yeah, hopefully y'all saw. It wasn't the ideal start, but hopefully y'all saw how much that Dusknoir made a difference, being able to sponge up that much damage. He did eventually get knocked out, but he did his job. And we were eventually able to pick up the last couple of prizes. So, thanks for watching the video. I'm going to, actually, I think I might post another one. I'm going to keep on playing a little bit and see if there's maybe another match where we actually start with Wobbuffet and the game goes more like how we intend it to go. Alrighty, going up against Professor Eevee. Professor Eevee. Deontay's flipping heads. She's new. She doesn't realize that we need tails, because that's what we always pick. Opponent will get to start first. We get a Wobbuffet and a Duskull and no Karina, which is alright actually. We have the Wobbuffet and we have the Duskull, but really need to find that Groudon. We'll start against a Keldeo. This could be a number of things. It could be the Blastoise speed deck, Archie's Blastoise. Could also be a Primal Kyogre deck, which would be pretty cool to have on video. I hope it's that, because Primal Kyogre versus Primal Groudon always makes for good matches. But Professor Sycamore and Water going into the discard pile with an Ultra Ball. See what it gets. This will probably help us determine what my opponent is playing here. Yep, it is going to be Archie's Blastoise. Wobbuffet is very good against this deck, actually. We may actually see a turn 1 Blastoise, but it's not going to be as good as it could be because Wobbuffet's going to sit here and say, you can't deluge. Alright, is there an Archie in here? No, he's just getting a Sycamore, so no turn 1. So that's good for us, because eventually that Blastoise will be a problem. Muscle Band on the Keldeo, and he has to pass. There's a Primal Groudon. I don't like to see that. And we're just going to have to Juniper this hand. There's really nothing we can do with it. There's a Groudon. And, I want to put down Silent Lab, but if Archie's comes up, because I want to stop the Russian, but if Blastoise comes down, that would mean that Wobbuffet is shut off. That means Deluge is on, and that's a problem for us. So we will have to just go ahead and pass here. Next turn we will Karina, probably get Professor's Letter too. We really hoping that other Primal Groudon is not prized. I really have no idea if it is or not. So if it isn't, this could be a very bad time. So what will our opponent do? He can Lysander and get rid of Wobbuffet from the active. But then if he does that, he can't use Archie's. So it's a bit of a conundrum. Or he can, of course, just attack into the Wobbuffet and put some pressure on me. There's a Superior Energy Retrieval. Just getting 1. So he discarded 2 and got... Maybe... This is a very mathy deck, actually. If he's trying to get out the Blastoise, he could be trying to use some card shenanigans to get his hand down to 1. There's Computer Search. I sense shenanigans happening. We may have to Karina for a Repeat Ball. I really would like to draw a Professor's Letter or an Energy here. That would mean we could Karina for something other than Professor's Letter, because right now we definitely have to grab that. We are behind on energy attachments. Opponent taking his time on what he wants to draw. He discarded that Shaman because he can't use it with Wobbuffet in the active. Shaman's definitely the main reason we run this Wobbuffet. It just really makes it hard to keep up with other decks. We do see a Lysander there. And, looks like he... I think I might have kept that Shaman. Oh well. So what are we going to do here? We're going to Karina. The other Primal is here, thankfully. But what do we get other than that? I'm gonna say... Is Professor's Letter even in here? It's not. Yikes. That's not good. Ooh. We might have to grab... Computer Search. Gross. So we can get an energy. Alright. We'll just do that then. We'll go and put down Silent Lab so that, stop Russian, I don't even know. We'll Comp Search away, Lysander and in, grab a Strong Energy, attach, and then we will put down Primal Groudon. So we're definitely going to need a switching card this next time. We've already used 1, so could be in a bad spot here. There's a Battle Compressor. If Archie's hits the discard pile right now, we are in some trouble. I do not believe Silent Lab turns off Blastoise, which is a problem. Really unfortunate that the Professor's Letter was prized. Having to waste Computer Search on an energy attachment is always super disappointing. See, oh, my opponent has to pass. Gross. He puts another Blastoise in here, but it looks like his Archies might all be prized. That would be really bad. Alright, I'm going to put down Shrine of Memories now, because I'm definitely going to Juniper, and I kind of prefer the Shrine at the moment, so I can knock out these Keldeos. I'm running a bit of a low on stadiums. Okay, so... There's another Duskull. We have the rare candy Dusknoir, and we can actually start Rip Clawing. I didn't even think about that. That is a great idea. Go Rip Claw. 50. And a heads. Alright, Deontay. Doing work. Might keep you around after all. And yeah, my opponent has to pass. This is not a good spot he's found himself in. What are we going to do? We are going to... I don't want to discard this hand, so I'm going to do a pretty bad Colress for 4. But we do... Wow, nice hand. Put down Wobbuffet. We'll attach Strong, and then we'll do another Rip Claw, and hopefully we can knock that other energy off, and we do. Nice. Alright, so best thing we could draw next turn would be Dusknoir. If not, we will go ahead and Juniper either way. But looks like my opponent is debating what he wants to do with that energy. An Archie and Blastoise could turn this whole thing around for him, but he's really struggling to find that. I'm suspecting that his Archies must all be prized or something. Alright, we'd have Karina, but I don't think I'm interested in playing that. We'll go ahead and play Juniper. We get the Psychic score. Put that down. And why not? Let's just let's go ahead and do a massive rend here. 170, enough to get the knockout, and we get to keep the stadium afterwards, which is of course the big deal with the Shrine of Memories. And oh man, looks like my opponent's just going to have to pass, and that means Gaia Volcano will take the game. 240. Goodbye, Keldeo. Wobbuffet, very good against Blastoise. My opponent could have probably had a much more explosive start had it not been for that Wobbuffet. So I think that shows a bit more than the first game, how that Wobbuffet can really put in some work on that. And of course, we got some pretty lucky Rip Claw flips, but even if we hadn't, we would have been able to Shadow Void to the Primal Groudon, or off the Primal Groudon, and keep him healthy. So I think this deck would have been, this game would have been in the bag anyway. So thanks for watching the video. I will certainly start pumping them out a little bit quicker now that I had some earlier summer shenanigans. Now that those are settling down, hopefully I'll be able to pump out some more videos much more regularly. I am Calvin with the Curious card, and I will see y'all in the next video.